But the battle on the southern border is far from over. President Trump saying the migrants waiting in Mexico will not be allowed to enter the U.S. without going through the proper channels and threatening to permanently shut the doors. This after chaos broke out Sunday when hundreds of migrants stormed the U.S. border at the port of entry in San Ysidro, California, some of them throwing rocks and bottles at border agents who fired back with tear gas to stop them from crossing. The president today defended the agents' use of that gas.
They had to use because they were being rushed by some very tough people, and they used tear gas. And here's the bottom line. Nobody's coming into our country unless they come in illegally.
According to Customs and Border Protection, 69 people were arrested trying to break into the U.S., while Mexican police say 39 migrants were taken into custody on their side of the border. The president urging Mexico to deport the migrants who tried to enter the U.S., tweeting earlier, Mexico should move the flag-waving migrants, many of whom are stone-cold criminals, back to their countries. Do it by plane, do it by bus, do it any way you want. But they are not coming into the U.S. We will close the border permanently if need be. Congress, fund the wall. So does yesterday's violence justify the president's hard stance? My next guest introduced the fund and Complete the Border Wall Act earlier this year. Joining me now, House Judiciary Committee member and Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs. Welcome back, Congressman.
Thanks, Kennedy. Good to be with you.
So my question is, and I want to back up a little bit, why are we seeing the rush of migrants in these caravans? Is it because there's an economic boom and so many people want to find work before that all-important Christmas holiday? Or is it because there's so much chaos in this country and they know essentially they'll get a pass since catch and release is still very much in action?
Well, it might be a little of both, but I will tell you this. When we do catch and release and we don't follow and enforce our rule of law and secure our borders, it provides incentives to come here. And I think you believe, like I do, that incentives motivate all people. And so lots of people want to come here. And also, don't forget, there's some folks, NGOs like Pueblo Sin Frontera, that are trying to make a scene because they want an open border, so they're trying to use this as well. So there's a lot of factors here, but mostly it's because we haven't enforced our laws.
And Congress has not been doing a very good job of amending those laws because we have very different needs now than we did 30 and 40 years ago. So let's talk about that, because from January 2017, there has been essentially a two-year run where there has been the Republican Trifecta, the two houses of Congress and the presidency. And, you know, obviously you weren't able to get anything done on health care and nothing meaningful on immigration. Why is that?
Well, it's because we didn't keep our promise. So let me just say this. I think if we did a clean bill, that's the best way to do it. But what happens is we tend to lard these things up. I'll give you this if you'll vote for the bill. Next thing you know, you have 35, 40 things on there. And, you know, the first person that got bought off saying, well, gee, I can't go with the number 39. That pushes me back off. So you've got these problems. You also have the Senate 60-vote rule, which is always a problem. But the reality is, I just believe there hasn't been the firm commitment and will to get this done.
Now, you're talking, your bill specifically deals with funding the border wall. It seems impossible at this point to have comprehensive immigration reform. If you were going to put on the docket 3 bills and rank them in order of importance, the first bill being obviously the most important, what aspects of border protection and immigration would you take care of because they need to be taken care of?
First of all is the border security and the border wall. Nothing else that you do matters if you can't control the border. So that's number one. Number two, we'd have to enforce the law with the sanctuary cities. You can't let people here just run rampant and flaunt the law. So that's number two. And the third thing I think we would do is we'd do E-Verify, which actually has some kind of deterrent effect, as we've seen even in Arizona, where we actually have E-Verify laws here.
Mm-hmm. All right. It may be somewhat of a deterrent, but obviously the United States and Mexico both doing a poor job in dealing with these migrant rushes. What happened to the UN? Because it seems like the UN is far better equipped to deal with refugees and asylees.
Well, my lifetime experience at the UN, when I used to do some legal work at the UN, I've never found them to be particularly efficient at doing anything, including migrants and refugees. They do that a little better than they do some other things, but they haven't come in. I mean,
but that was one of the deals that was discussed, was that the UN was going to take over to take some of the political pressure off of this system where these migrants were being used as puppets by both sides, and the whole thing has gotten so ridiculous, and there really is no end in sight, because obviously Republicans aren't going to be able to pass meaningful legislation in the 2 weeks they have left in this congressional year, and Democrats are going to want to oppose the president, and they're not going to want to work with your side. So what happens then?
Well, the UN, you're right. The UN was supposed to step in. They haven't done it. I think the rush has been so fast and so furious that they haven't even been able to get up and running. So what I would suggest, if we were going to do something that was meaningful, I would get FEMA down there to the border. I would bring in judges, immigration judges and administrators, and we would get these people in. We know that more than 80% of them are going to be rejected on their asylum claim. They've already had an opportunity for asylum in Mexico. I'd bring them in, get through that asylum process and the deportation process, and move them out very quickly. And I think we could do that. We just have to concentrate resources to do that.
Yes. So the past two administrations in Mexico have essentially thrown both border doors open, welcoming people essentially to tunnel through their country and into the United States, because they're not in a position or in the mood to support those in need who are escaping drug violence. But at the same time, they're not really showing a great deal of compassion. Do you think our relationship with Mexico in terms of immigration and border security is going to be different and perhaps better under AMLO?
Well, we've been told that it's going to be better. I hope it's going to be better. You know, we were able to get this new bill, or it's not a bill yet, but this new treaty on trade through. That's a positive thing. So I think there might be some positive things coming in. President Trump's talked very favorably about the new administration down there. But we'll have to wait and see, because they're under pressure too. But what we're seeing is in Tijuana, they don't like the refugees being there either.
It's a lot to deal with. I mean, you're talking about thousands of people. Each person has to be treated as an individual. And, you know, when you've got moms with babies who don't have formula and diapers and medicine, it's a real crisis. And there are some very irresponsible actors all the way around. And I hope that people like you can have a rational conversation with those on the other side of the aisle, so we can do something to make this a little bit clearer, so we don't have this sort of chaos which breeds this behavior. Congressman Andy Biggs, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kennedy.
Absolutely.